What's up, everybody? I pray that your day has been awesome. Your week has been great. Jesus Field, I pray that the favor of God is resting upon you. I'm working on a series out of the first chapter, book of James, for our daily devotion. And I want to look at verse 2, James chapter 1, verse 2. Talk about that for just a few minutes and hopefully give you something to think about and pray about. I'm praying that it'll inspire you and challenge you a little bit. So let's read it. James chapter 1, verse 2. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations. Count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations. Now, the book of James is a powerful book, 50 imperatives, 50 commandments in this book. So James doesn't really suggest anything. Everything he pretty much says is a commandment. So I like that. Straight, gun barrel straight, black, white. I like that. Gives you clear-cut instructions on how to live and, the practical living and just good stuff. And I love to use this book in our daily devotions. But this verse right here is powerful. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations. Now, I just spent about an hour working on this verse here at the church. We're going through these verses. I'm going to try to do the whole book of James on Wednesday night, which is exciting to me. But my first sermon is on a satisfied saint. It's actually 4 verses. I'm supposed to deal with all 4 verses, but it ain't happening. I dealt with verse 1 last week and verse 2 today, so we'll see how it goes. It may take me 20 years to get done. Anyway, look at this verse. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations. Now, before I break this verse down, there is a powerful truth, I believe, that's just undergirding it in the backdrop. He says, troubles are coming and you need to count it joy. Okay, but this is very difficult for most of American Christians. Because most American Christians, and when I say most, I mean 51% or more, most American Christians, of course that number is way higher than 51%. Christianity, quote unquote Christianity, is a humanistic kind of thing. Serving God is pretty much about not going to hell, getting your blessings and, God paying your bills and making things happen and getting miracles. And, you're too blessed to be stressed and you got your car and your trunk full of $100 bills. And as long as things are going great, then you're doing great. That's basically what you've got most people doing out there in the church world right now. That Christ, the church, it's all about what we can get. They even go to church. Church is not about going and serving. It's not about going and blessing. For a lot of people, church is about going and getting blessed. Boy, we got a blessing tonight. And and they basically gauge, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people gauge the quality of the service on whether they got blessed or not, whether we shouted and ran and leaped. And so really all of Christianity for some people is about what they can get from God. You cannot fulfill this verse, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations, with that type of mentality. If you have a humanistic type Christian experience where you love Jesus and come to church and all of that to see what you can get from Jesus, this verse is going to be very hard for you, because your walk with God and even how you measure the love of God toward you is about what you receive. So as long as you feel good, as long as you're being blessed at church, as long as there's a paycheck, as long as there's health in your family, as long as there's food in the cabinets, as long as the car's driving, as long as you got new vehicles or clothes that look nice, or on and on and on, then you're in the favor of God. In your mind, maybe not you, but a lot of people, as long as things are on mountaintop experience, then God loves them. But the moment something bad happens, then they start wondering if God loves them, if God has forgotten them. They start questioning whether serving God is, worth it or not. And listen, all of us have had these moments, I guess. Maybe not all of us. I know I've had my little pity parties from time to time that I've had to wake up from. But you can't count it joy when you are tested if Christianity is about you. But if you understand that real, true, pure Christianity is about bringing glory to Jesus Christ, then you can grasp this verse. But if you're one of those that is down more than you're up, and like I said tonight, it isn't so much about being down or up, it's about being plateaued, having high points where everything is great and you're walking and talking in power and glory, and it's like revival all the time, and we have little dips to where we don't feel, little depression strikes us, and we have our issues. We all have these fluctuations. But I'm talking about people that hit the mountain peak, this crazy up and down. There's no real steady walk with God. Very fickle Christianity. Those type of people can't grasp this verse, because this verse requires you to do something very unnatural. It's not natural to rejoice when you're being persecuted. It's not natural to count it or esteem it, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Now, I can give you the breakdown. This word count here, basically it comes from a word. It's the same word. It's used in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 7 and 14. And one other place, the word there translated, though, it's rule over. Obey them that have the rule over you. Rule over, it's the same exact word as it is here in count. So basically what he's saying is when temptation comes, you need to be a leader and demonstrate integrity, holiness, righteousness. You need to show the world how to overcome temptation, how to become, powerful in those hard and trying times. So that's what the word count means. It means to be a leader. Count it all joy. I mean, that's a deep, deep subject right there. The word joy is a deep well. But we're basically talking about inward strength and satisfaction, contentment, all right? There's more to the word joy, but that'll help you understand a little bit. Count it all joy. Be satisfied no matter what comes your way. Have a deep-seated, contentment in God that can't be stripped away through pain or poverty or situations. Count it all joy when you fall. Now, the word that this is not self-inflicted stuff here. People jump and they say, well, I fell into some temptation. No, you jumped. Dude one time said to me over here in one of these projects, he said, Bishop, I accidentally fornicated. I said, there ain't no such thing as accidental fornication. Anyway, some people jump into temptation and they say they fell into it, but there's a big difference. This word, fall into temptation, is the same type word picture that you would find. Maybe someone fell among, the man was going down to Jericho and he fell among thieves. Well, he didn't mean to. There's a big difference between taking a right down an alley and finding that there's 20 prostitutes on both sides. You just keep walking and you keep moving or turn around and what? You fell among those. That's not the same thing as crossing the street and going into the prostitution house. Okay, some people jump, some people fall. And he's talking about falling or finding yourself like a ship striking the reefs. Couldn't see it, didn't see it. It just happened. Sometimes we are surrounded. And he says, count it all joy when you fall into divers. Now, that's not talking about deep sea diving. Divers, just a King James Version word for diverse or various. Count it all joy when you fall into various temptations. And the word temptation here is a word parasmos in the Greek. And it simply means a testing, a trying, or a proving. Now, Satan will tempt us, but that is in a different context. He is trying to lure us so he can get a hook in our mouth and draw us away from God. Jesus will tempt us. He will test us. He won't tempt us with sin. He won't tempt us with ungodliness. What the Bible plainly says, that God is not tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man with evil. But he will test us because we need to know what we're made of. Like, the redwood forest, I think it was, some of those big sequoia trees that 20 feet wide, a storm came and they all toppled over. Well, no one could believe it because those trees were huge and had been standing for hundreds of years. But what happened was that storm was so powerful, it blew them over, and they found out that the insides of those trees were rotted out. So that storm illustrated or proved what that tree had inside of it. So if you and I, if the number one priority in our life is to glorify Jesus, and trials and temptation comes, instead of us falling out, instead of us quitting, instead of us finding an escape route away from God, instead of us withdrawing and becoming reclusive, instead of us, just falling apart, we're going to look for a way to learn from this. How can this temptation cause me to glorify Jesus more? What lesson can I learn in this temptation? I'm being tested. I want to learn everything I can from this temptation, this trial. I don't want to sin. I don't want to fall. Jesus was tempted at every point, yet he did not sin. And that is the ultimate pattern. And that is what he wants us to do. So let us start praying, God, help me instead of crumbling and falling underneath the pressure. Let that pressure create a diamond in me that I can give God glory. Now, see what I'm saying? You've got to really have something. It's against our nature, but this is what Christianity is about. It's about giving God the glory, giving God the praise in every area, every aspect of our life. And it would do you some, a great benefit to tattoo Romans 8:28 on your heart and on your mind, that all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. So, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Let God get the glory in every situation. Stop backsliding, stop falling away, stop withdrawing from the church and from everything, and go forward and say, all right, we're in the classroom. Jesus is the teacher. He sees something that I need to learn. Here we are. Hope that helped. God bless.